The holy priest, charged with the gifts of their patron god. The cleric is a smiter of evil and master of priestly spells, or so one would think. In this video today, we're going to be doing a deep dive on another one of our classes for BG3. This will be, of course, a 12-part series where I hope to give you a better idea about each of the classes ahead of the launch of BG3 come August 3rd. Today we'll be focusing on the Cleric. I'll be pulling information from the 5th edition Player's Handbook, and I'll show off the early access character select screen. There won't be a ton of visuals because I just don't want to spoil anything from the game for myself or for you. How we'll do this video is by talking about the base kit without any subclasses, then go into the subclasses we know are coming at launch. It's worth noting that most subclass abilities go up to level 20 in D&D, but the cap for Baldur's Gate 3 is level 12. So we'll talk about the high-end abilities because we still aren't sure if they're coming into the game in a modified form or what have you, but that's just a bit of transparency up front. Keep in mind, you can fully respect both your character and your companions for the exception of their race, so I encourage you to try out every class you're curious about when the game launches, and please, as always, play how you want, not how the internet tells you. Lastly, I am no D&D expert, not even slightly, so I apologize if I missed the mark on any of these descriptions. You can quickly navigate to any part of the video that interests you the most using the chapters in both the timeline and the description, and don't forget to swing on by my Twitch where I'll be streaming Baldur's Gate 3 on launch, linked in the description and pinned comment. Let's get started here on my Cleric Class and Subclass detailed breakdown for Baldur's Gate 3. Loading into the game, we have the Cleric. The Cleric is obviously that priest-like character that is always kind of seen as the typical healer. One thing I want you to kind of really understand with healing in D&D is it's kind of not necessarily a trap, and this is something that's been explained to me by friends that are very experienced D&D players. They said that, hey, you know what? It's almost always more useful to just outright do damage and kill something versus healing people. Healing is typically something you do as a, like, hey, you know what? I'm not really in range. I can't do anything from here. Let me get a heal out to give a little utility. And the reason I'm explaining that is because when you take a look at the amount of healing that a cleric can do, you might be thinking, well, how the hell am I supposed to keep someone alive? I can't use tons of heals, or my heals aren't that strong because maybe I'm not the life domain, whatever it is. It's just me trying to kind of explain that healing isn't what it is in, like, say, World of Warcraft, where you're topping someone off all the time. It's kind of like use in case of emergency or use it as additional utility. But play also however you want. Now let's go through this class and how it works. So the Cleric is a wisdom class, meaning you're using your wisdom for your spells, for your ability checks, all sorts of things primarily. And the Cleric is a little bit different in Baldur's Gate. In the Dungeons & Dragons actual handbook, you choose a domain, which is your subclass, which then dictates which deities you can choose. It's not like that in Baldur's Gate. You just simply select whatever domain you want to be, and then you can select whatever deity you want to be. So take, for example, here, isn't Tyr typically? Yeah, Tyr is typically like, oh no, Tempest. Tempest is typically all about war and stuff like that, and I think in the book it's something like you can only access war and Tempest or something like that. I don't remember what it is, but still my point remains here that I can be whatever deity I want and whatever subclass I want. And by and large, your deity is not going to matter. It's pretty much going to be RP and flavorful kind of related more than anything. You know, hey, do you want to go align with Baal, the god of murder, or Moradin, the Allhammer, whatever it is? It used to be, okay, Moradin, you only be able to do the Forge domain, so on and so forth. Don't worry about that. You're going to select your domain, though, which does have a thing it does have a determining factor on the class. So when you start off, you get access to spellcasting and your divine domain, which is, again, your subclass. You have quite a few divine domains to access. And here in early access here, we only have a couple. I think it's life, light, trickery, and I don't even have war. Yeah, it's life, light, trickery. But in the actual game, we'll have knowledge, we'll have war, we'll have tempest, we'll have nature, which we're going to go into in just a little bit. But I want to explain how this works on kind of a high level before we jump into every single class, our subclass, because you know about cantrips. And if you have not, I have a whole breakdown of what advantages are, what disadvantages are, what proficiencies are in a video linked in the upper right hand corner if you don't understand these terms. I might gloss over them, I might explain them depending on. But you have your spells as well. So what's unique about Cleric is that you have prepared spells, like every other, well, your clerics, your druids, and your wizards use your prepared spells. So you basically prepare spells from a pool of spells that you have access to. So I have access to all 8 of these spells, and we go ahead and prepare them, meaning that we can cast them in the game. If we want to swap them, we can go ahead and swap them in the game. I don't think there's any penalty in Baldur's Gate to do it. It's different in D&D. Let's say, okay, we're going to cast Shield of Faith and Bane and Guiding Bolt. You know what? I don't want Create or Destroy Water. I want Heal Wounds. Okay, done. So those are my prepared spells. I can go ahead and cast them as soon as I press Venture Forth. But every domain will give us access to always prepared spells. So here's our spell pool. And I'm going to switch this over to Trickery because it's probably a bit easier to see. So here are our prepared spells. Well, the domain gives us always prepared spells, meaning that no matter what spells we prepare up here, we will always have these 2 spells or whatever spells are given to us as a result of our domain. So take, for example, here we have these 4 prepared spells: Healing Word, Guiding Bolt, Shield of Faith, and Bane. But we also now have Charm Person and Disguise Self, regardless of what we have in our prepared spells location. Same thing here if I were to switch to Life. Well, you know what? It's telling me right here, you already have a stronger version of these in your always prepared location. So it's just kind of worth noting that's how those domains work and how the spells work. And I don't want you to get confused when you see prepared spells, and spells here and go, well, what's the difference? These are always prepared. They're always ready for you. You can always use them. And then your cantrips are going to be pretty much 4 abilities that you can pull from, unless you go Domain of Light, which gives you the Light cantrip. I think another domain or 2 will give you different ones, but I'll talk about those when we get to them. So that's kind of how the domains and the deity work as it pertains to the cleric. And again, of course, you are a wisdom class, and you will also get access to simple weapons, shields, light and medium armor, and then depending upon your domain, you'll get other things. So take, for example, we are the life domain. This would give us heavy armor proficiency. Remember, you can use all armor, but a proficiency allows you to not have a disadvantage when an attack roll, and it allows you to cast while wearing that armor. You're going to be using wisdom and charisma for your saving or for special saving throw proficiencies you've got. And as far as our skills go, we get access to history, insight, medicine, persuasion, and religion on the base level. Certain subclasses might sub in different proficiencies. Like if we went with knowledge, we'd get access to like arcana into this, or other ones. I think it's arcana, history, nature, and religion are ones you can further specialize in. But those are kind of the down and dirty of what the cleric does. Yes, you can be in the front line with the cleric, and you can kind of go toe-to-toe with some things. You are not the most durable, right? So you have 8 hit points plus your constitution modifier here. So you don't have heavy armor unless you go with a specific subclass. But basically what this allows you to do is be a character that can buff and really help out the party with a ton of utility spells. You can add a lot of damage in too, right? You have a lot of damage spells here. Call forth a beam of light that grants advantage on the next attack roll against the target. So you do damage, and now anyone attacking this target, they get a little bit of an advantage against it, right? So it helps you in doing damage, or allows your party to do more damage. Or you get stuff like Shield of Faith here. Surround a creature with a shimmering field of magic that increases its armor class by 2, helping you to help give a little bit more armor class to yourself, or to the frontline fighter, or maybe a backline wizard that's being compromised. Don't think of this class as someone that has to be the healer or has to simply be a buff bot. Your domain is really going to dictate how you play your cleric. Are you going to be a war domain cleric that gets up close and personal and uses a little bit of combat to really deliver the damage? Are you going to be a trickery domain and use this to your advantage to kind of skulk and sneak around to do different types of skullduggery? Or maybe you go Tempest and you're just ripping things apart with lightning magic. So that is your down and dirty for the base kit for the cleric. Let's talk a little bit more too about how this progresses through the levels. Because on level 1, you get your spellcasting and divine domain, but another big thing of the cleric is your channel divinity. So what this allows you to do is turn undead. Basically send undead running away if they don't pass a certain ability score or ability check. And then that eventually becomes destroy undead on the 5th level. So if they fail the turn undead check, then they take damage and are outright destroyed if they're under a certain difficulty or whatever it is. There's a certain rating that they have to pass. If they don't pass it, boom, they explode. So like maybe a lich when you're level 5 is not really going to get destroyed, but maybe a little skeleton warrior will. So it just kind of depends upon your level and the difficulty of that actual guy. And then at level 10, you get Divine Intervention, which allows you to actually tap into your patron deity to have them help you out. What that means in this game, I do not know, unfortunately. And as far as what the game is concerned with, you do cap out at level 12. I mean, you're only going to get to your 6th level of spell. So you won't be able to tap into level 7, 8, or 9. Hopefully we'll be able to see what that looks like in the future through some sort of like DLC or something of the sort. But outside of your channel divinity, it gives you the ability to, you know, turn undead. But you also will get a divine domain feature where you will choose, if I go to press channel divinity, I either turn undead or whatever my domain will give me as far as a channel divinity option. So take, for example, like life domain. It doesn't show me on here. I can use this to either turn undead with my channel divinity, or the life domain allows me to constantly heal people around me. So you choose what you want to do when you channel divinity, depending upon your base kit and what your subclass is. So with that all being said, let's dive into some of the subclasses for Cleric. And to start us off, we're going to talk about the life domain. Life domain is an aspect of many good deities, offering spells that protect and restore the mind, body, and soul. So we only have 3 to take a look at here in early access, but we have quite a few to go through. So what this does here, it shows it right here in the subclass features. We get heavy armor proficiency for the life domain, which is lovely. We can pop into the heaviest of armor and actually be a little bit more stalwart in holding the line. We also get Disciple of Life. Now this will progress as we go through the levels of the life domain, because the life domain is all about healing. That is the primary focus here. We'll get access to Bless, Cure Wounds, Lesser Restoration, Spiritual Weapon, Beacon of Hope, Revivify, Death Ward, Guardian of Faith, all these things that are really towards buffing and healing. More on the healing side. But Disciple of Life here, so when casting a healing spell, the target regains additional hit points equal to 2 plus the spell's level. Let me put this into context for you. So this Cure Wounds is a level 1 evocation spell. So I will actually get 3 more points healed on whatever this rolls between 4 to 11. This allows me, or maybe I'll look at this one. This will allow me to get more healing out. And that scales. So Disciple of Life is at level 1, but then Blessed Healer I get even more. Then I get Supreme Healing at level 17. Blessed Healer is at level 6. So this allows me to get even more hit points out whenever I do heal. Now at level 8 you also get Divine Strike, which allows you to add radiant damage to any time that you do a weapon attack, and that eventually scales to do even more radiant damage the more you level. And your domain spells here, they're right now, Bless and Cure Wounds. Like I said, those are your first 2. But that is your life domain. So if you want to be a healer and you really want to kind of hang back and use those buffing and healing capabilities, the life domain is going to be for you. Next up is the light domain, which adds an additional cantrip. So we have our 3 we're choosing from right here. Light adds this one, or right there, the light cantrip. Infuse an object with an aura of light. So it gives you light. But the big subclass feature here is Warding Flare. Shield yourself with Divine Light. Use your reaction to impose disadvantage on an attacker, possibly causing their attack to miss. So reaction you'd use in close combat to make it so that they can hopefully miss you. And then we get Channel Divinity, Radiance of the Dawn. So if our life Channel Divinity was Preserved Life, which helps heal everything around us, Preserved Dawn, or Radiance of the Dawn, is what basically gives us the ability to do AoE radiant damage. And this is actually a pretty cool one. And the way that this works here is that things around you, they have to do a Constitution saving throw, meaning that they would use their Constitution to do a Constitution check. And if they fail that, they take radiant damage equal to 2d10 plus your cleric level, which is a lot of damage. So 2d10, let's just say you roll max on both of those. That's 20 plus your cleric level at level 1. That's 21 radiant damage, which is typically associated with like fire. Take, for example, here, this Guiding Bolt does radiant damage. It's not outright fire damage. I'm just saying it's radiant, beams of light, basically. But the light domain also has a ton of spells aligned with fire. On that note, there's your actual fire damage modifier. So you're going to get Burning Hands and Fairy Fire are your two domain spells when you start off. But this becomes Flaming Sphere, Scorching Ray, Daylight, Fireball, Guardian of Faith yet again, Wall of Fire, Flame Strike, Scrying. So lots of fire damage, lots of radiant damage, and especially too because you get Warding Flare, also giving you that disadvantage. Now, you also get this improved at level 6 to improved flare, potent spellcasting at level 8, which basically allows you to add your wisdom modifier to the damage you deal with any cleric cantrip, which are these right here, not cleric spell, because you already do that because of your charisma, because of your wisdom, that's how you cast your spells. Lastly, though, you get Corona of Light at level 17, which unfortunately I don't think that we would get access to here. But it gives your enemies in the bright lights have disadvantage on saving throws against any spell that deals fire or radiant damage. So this is definitely a character that is going to be delivering AoE radiant damage. You do not have the tank ability of the heavy armor proficiency, but you still are going to be able to deal out quite a bit of both fire and radiant damage if that's the kind of role you want to take with your cleric. And our last domain that is in the early access is the Trickery domain, a domain shared by wicked, chaotic, and mischievous deities alike. Those who channel Trickery specialize in deception and illusion magic, which you'll see is just that with our spells. We get Charm Person, as well as Disguise Self, but we have a special action called Blessing of the Trickster. Grant another creature advantage on stealth checks, so this kind of helps with stealthing around if you want to take that route. But you have that Channel Divinity. Remember, Channel Divinity does your turn undead, but now what you do here is invoke Duplicity with this. And this isn't just simply creating an illusion of yourself and that thing just kind of goes off and distracts people. Nay, the creation, the perfect illusion of yourself is pretty cool because you can use your bonus action during your turn to move the illusion. And then when you cast spells, you can cast the spell as if you are where you are, or you can cast a spell from the location of your duplicate, from your illusion, which allows you to just basically create something that is a no risk to you, right? The thing goes out there. If it gets dispelled, it gets dispelled, it destroyed, it doesn't matter to you. But it allows you to cast spells further up the line than you needing to actually physically place yourself there. It's a really, really nice ability. Also, if you're within 5 feet of a creature that can see the illusion, you have advantage on attack rolls against that creature. Because again, that illusion is distracting them. So it's a nice way to kind of give you a little bit of an added capability. But you also get Channel Divinity Cloak of Shadows. So at level 6, this is when you can get access to this. You can use your Channel Divinity ability to just outright vanish. So this gives you just a lot of kind of tricks and tools at your disposal to move around the battlefield to just vanish, then basically it's in place until you attack or cast a spell or someone obviously sees you. So you can use this ability to just kind of displace yourself if you so wish. Then your Divine Strike, and I don't think I illustrated this properly in the base kit section, but every single cleric will have a Divine Strike in their domain because it is an ability given to them by their domain, basically, by their god, more or less. But Divine Strike for Trickery gives you poison damage, which then evolves to 2d8 poison damage at level 14, which unfortunately we can't go to. And then, speaking of, at level 17, you get Improved Duplicity, which gives you 4 illusions, which is awesome. But that is your domain of Trickery. Next up is the War domain, which is going to give you access to Divine Favor, Shield of Faith, Magic Weapon, Spiritual Weapon, Crusader's Mantle, Spirit Guardians. So stuff that's very geared towards combat or buffing up specifically combat and moving in and out of combat. You get Stone Skin and Freedom of Movement, stuff like that. But at level 1, you'll get a bonus proficiency of Martial and Heavy Weapons. So much like you did for Life, that gave you that Heavy Weapon, we would also get a Heavy Armor heavy armor proficiency, and then get martial weapons. So you get access to your flails, to your long swords, bastard swords, all that kind of fun stuff that is outside of the simple weapon purview. But you also get a really cool one called War Priest. So basically, whenever you use an attack action, you can make another weapon attack action as a bonus action dependent upon your wisdom modifier. Meaning, So this is a +3, so we can do that 3 times before you have to do a long rest to reset that, which is really, really, really cool. Now for our Channel Divinity at level 2, we get Guided Strike, which basically adds 10 to any attack roll that I personally do. And at level 6, we get War God's Blessing, where we get to add 10 to any of our party members' attack rolls. So this is really nice. It kind of helps push things over and make sure you actually smash into the target and hit them, right? Versus like, hey, I'm going to attack to, I'm going to roll to hit. I whiffed it. Well, I'm going to use Guided Strike or War God's Blessing, whatever it is. I think you have to do it before. It says you make this choice after you see the roll, but before the DM says whether the attack hits or miss. Well, there you go. So you do that after you roll for attack, and then you buff it if you need to. Then our Divine Strike for this character is just simply a 1d8 damage increase. And what that applies to is whatever damage your weapon is doing. So maybe if you have a magic weapon, it's going to take that damage and increase it. If it's just the physical damage of your weapon, then that's what it's going to do. It's whatever it says the weapon. Specifically, it says you cause the attack to deal an extra 1d8 damage of the same type dealt by the weapon to the target. So that is how that works off. And then at level 17, you get bonuses to resistances to bludgeoning, piercing, slashing damage from non-magical weapons. But unfortunately, will not go that high. But that is your war domain. Now, the nature domain is might make you think that you're going to be kind of like a druid with heavier armor. That's not really the case here. The nature domain does get animal friendships, speak with animals, bark skin, spike growth, plant growth, wind wall, dominate beast, grasping vine, insect plague, tree stride, all those fun things. But you also get access to some other stuff. So your very first thing would be Acolyte of Nature, which would grant you a druid cantrip of animal handling, nature, or survival. I'm sorry. You get a druid cantrip, but you also get access to one of the following proficiencies that you get to select: animal handling, nature, or survival. I got that totally miffed up in my head. But then you also get the bonus proficiency of heavy armor, which is nice. You're going to have a little bit heavier, well, you're going to have heavy armor as an actual defensive option. Your Channel Divinity is Charm Animals and Plants. And this one's actually kind of cool. So the way that this works is any plant or animal within a certain radius of you, it's 30 feet in the book. I don't know what that's going to be in the actual game. It might be like 11 meters. I don't know. They have to make a wisdom check, and if they fail it, you actually charm them for a minute, which is really, really cool. And at level 17, you actually get the ability to use a bonus action to do stuff with them, but unfortunately, we won't be able to get there. At level 6, you get the ability to dampen elements, which is very cool. So basically how this works is yourself or any of your teammates within 30 feet, anytime they take acid, cold, fire, lightning, or thunder damage, you can use your reaction. Remember, reactions only happen after something happens to them. You use your reaction to have them gain resistance to that creature. So or that instance of damage. Sorry. So if someone says, "Hey, you know what? I'm doing lightning damage to that thing." Well, the reaction is going to allow me to give that bonus, or like an enemy does it to your teammate, is what I mean. Then Divine Strike for the Domain of Nature is pretty cool too, because you do 1d8 additional cold, fire, or lightning damage you get to choose. So that'll be pretty fun, because you can see that this is not an outright just kind of druid domain for the cleric that turns you into like, oh, I'm pretty much just a druid with heavier armor. No, you have all this kind of tapping into elemental defense, but also elemental offense. It makes for a very, very cool domain for your cleric. Our second to last domain is going to be about the knowledge domain. And this is going to add command, identify, augury, suggestion, non-detection, speak with the dead, arcane eye, confusion, legend lore, scrying those spells to the mix for you. Now, with Blessing of Knowledge, that's going to be your level 1 specialization with this knowledge domain. We're not going to get better armor, but we are going to get better skills. So you get to choose 2 more skills. And again, here are your current skills that you'll have right now. When you go into knowledge domain, you gain Arcana, History, Nature, or Religion. You choose 2 of those. So this can be a chance for you to jump into Arcana, again, something that you typically don't have. History, Religion are both on this list as it is, but Nature is not. So you can kind of go into those. But if you miss that, that's okay, because you have Channel Divinity. So Channel Divinity for this character, of course, everyone gets Channel Divinity, but Knowledge of the Ages, what happens at level 2 here is when you use Channel Divinity, you have a chance here for Knowledge of the Ages. Not a chance. You choose a skill or a tool. And for 10 minutes, you have proficiency with the chosen skill or tool. This is kind of a cool way to kind of kit into yourself the ability to maybe pick a lock, whatever it is. You can add in stealth in here, or investigation into here, and animal handling into here. You just gain proficiency with it. So again, that means you get the 2 roll. The 2 extra proficiency bonus. So, you can take a look at something like animal handling, perception, or survival, who are all wisdom skills, which you will have lots of playing a cleric, which is quite cool, right? The other channel divinity that you get at level 6 is read thoughts. So now you have access to reading creatures' thoughts. You can then use your access to the creature's mind to command it, which is quite wild. So you'll be able, basically, if they fail a wisdom saving throw, you can command them, and then you can end the spell here. It says, during this time, you can use your action to end this effect and cast a suggestion spell on the creature without expending a spell slot, which is kind of nifty, right? You can basically command them for a bit and then use suggestion on them to kind of 1-2 punch. Then at level 8, you get potent spell casting, wherein you add your wisdom modifier to the damage of any cleric cantrip, which is lovely as well. Lastly is Visions of the Past, which is level 17 ability, which basically adds object reading and area reading to your kit. But unfortunately, we cannot get there since we are capped at level 12. So if you really want to go, it's not necessarily going heavier into casting and that you become a better caster. I guess, adding damage, wisdom modifier damage is good, but it's access to skills, to unfettered amounts of skills, which is really nice here. And the spells, of course, for domain are geared more towards divination and such, but that is your domain of knowledge. Lastly, we have the Tempest domain, which is probably my favorite one, which is going to give you access to fog cloud, thunder wave, gust of wind, shatter, call lightning, sleet storm, control water, ice storm. So it's not just simply lightning, it's just pretty much everything that's associated with a Tempest, right? And you get bonus proficiencies of both martial weapon and heavy armor yet again. A lot more heavy armor proficiencies added in by domains than I remember, so that's quite nice if you wanted to go the heavier route. But Wrath of the Storm is another ability that you get at level 1, and it's pretty cool. So pretty much anytime anyone hits you, they have to do a dexterity check. Remember, that's off of their dexterity ability. And if they fail it, they take 2d8 lightning or thunder damage. I get to choose. So it's like a max of 16, right? But if they fail it, they take half as much. So regardless, they're going to take some sort of reactive lightning or thunder damage from you, which is cool. But you also get your Channel Divinity ability, which kind of keys off all of this. This domain's really about ramping things together really well. It's pretty awesome. So Channel Divinity Destructive Wrath. What this does here is, whenever you roll to do lightning or thunder damage, you do if you choose to channel to divinity, you do the max roll. So that 2d8 would just be an outright 16 lightning damage if you so wish, which is really goddamn cool. And this goes into Thunderbolt Strike as well, which you get at level 6. So whenever you deal lightning damage to a large or smaller creature, you also push it 10 feet. So it displaces things for you if you so wish. And at level 8, you get Divine Strike, which means that you're basically, just like everything else, right? You're infusing your attack with a specific ability of that domain. Well, you're going to infuse your attack with thunder or lightning, which is very nice. Oh, I'm sorry. Actually, it's just straight up thunder. At level 14, that increases to 2d8, but we're not going to be able to get there. And lastly, at level 17, again, we don't get this, but it's a cool ability nonetheless. You have a flying speed equal to your current walking speed whenever you are not underground or indoors, which is really cool. So you can just pretty much fly across the map and just beat things to death. So I think this is probably my favorite domain just because I like lightning abilities, and I think it's pretty fun as far as being able to key off those abilities by buffing them with the Channel Divinity Destructive Wrath, or using Wrath of the Storm, just have a reactive ability to just do damage to people whenever they hit you. I think it's a really, really fun, cool, and really destructive domain. So that concludes our breakdown here of the Cleric, and hopefully you have a better idea of how this all kind of plays together. I know the Cleric is seemingly very convoluted. The Channel Divinity situation can be kind of a little difficult to understand, and I think that once you understand that, hey, you either are going to do turn undead or whatever the domain specific channel divinity you have access to, you get to do one or the other. And then you get access to your divine strike capabilities, which are very, very good. You get to be able to destroy undead outright if you want to use turn undead. You get access to cleric spells. You get access to domain specific spells. It's a very fun class that, again, I want you to kind of get out of the mindset of it solely being a healing class. As you've seen, especially with Tempest, you can do a lot of fun things and really ramp up a lot of really crazy damage through value trains and stuff like that. So hopefully this gives you a better idea of how the cleric plays. Let me know which one you want to see next in the comment section below. I think people have wanted to see rogue, so I'll do probably rogue next unless there's a clamor otherwise. But also do make sure you check out my video that kind of breaks down how stuff like proficiencies and skills and stuff like that work, so you have a better understanding of how they play into your character when you jump into Baldur's Gate 3. But as always, guys, thank you so much for watching here today. Have a good one and take care.